call this meeting to order. We have one regret, Councillor LeBlanc. If you feel the need to stand or move, please do so. I'd like to have the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or conflict of interest? Councillor Foster.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have an item that I would like to add to the agenda.
Okay,
Safety hazard on Morris Island.
all right, we will put that on 9F.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Warden Albright, Councillor Burke.
Thank you. I'm going to declare a conflict of interest for financial requests for 11A and 11B.
Okay,
I'm part of Pamlico Light Monument Society, and I work for the parish, so the Immaculate Conception Church.
okay. Thank you. Warden Albright.
Thank you. I would like to also add, I think probably under 9G, I'm looking, I guess, for approval from council to attend an NSFM workshop, if that is okay.
Would that be under 9G or 10A?
What is 10?
Correspond.
It would be 9, because I would want a motion to be made to make
Okay.
a decision.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. So can we have the agenda approved as amended? Moved by Councillor Madden and seconded by Councillor Burke. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We go to item 5, approval of the minutes. Do we have any omissions or additions? So we will accept the minutes as presented. 6, staff reports. We have the clerk report. We do not have the department head report. That's been deferred to March. But we do have the building permit report, which these reports come once a month, and as usual, they're listed there for the public and for council. Any questions on those? Seeing none, we will move to 7, 7-day notice, and there is none. So we shall move to 8, old business, and again, there's none. So we'll move to 9 for decision and discussion. Counselor leave absence request. You guys all had that letter from Councilor LeBlanc requesting a leave of absence. So we will go through that in a second. But first, I want to send Councilor LeBlanc our well wishes and speedy recovery on his health issues. So there's a suggested motion here for a request of leave of absence for 3 months to the end of May. Can I have someone, moved by Kathy Burke, seconded by Warden Albright. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Further to that, we're going to have to assign assistance to his district to help Councilor LeBlanc. I'm sure we're not going to have any problem with that, but we have to make a motion to assist him into his district. Can I have a motion for that? Moved by Councilor Madden, seconded by Councilor Boudreau. All in favor?
Point of order. The motion has to specify a councillor specifically. I don't think all of council would be, although you can all take it on, I think that it would be appropriate for the constituents to know who to call as temporary absent.
To that point on my agenda, I have a list of committees that Councilor LeBlanc is on, and my next move was to account
Yes, and there's three sections to this decision. Unfortunately, it can be a little complicated. So the second one where you've made the motion to assist Councillor LeBlanc, may I suggest that a councillor be assigned temporarily to District 6, much like we did when we had
Okay.
a re-election in District 5?
I understand, yes.
So we would, that individual will be responsible if they're calling, for Councillor LeBlanc, they'll know to call Councillor XY
Sure.
instead, while he's convalescing. And then the last one is to assign his subcommittees in his absence. So it's actually a lot of things we got to do by motion, unfortunately, but sorry if that wasn't clear.
Okay. So we need someone here to, Counselor Digdon.
Okay, thank you. I've been speaking with Councillor LeBlanc a couple times on this, and I was talking, right up till today, I was talking with him. And I was thinking, because of the nature of my work, what I've done and what I still do, I know a lot of families in the Argyle area. But being fair to the people on Roberts Island and down that way, and I was talking with Councillor Madden here this evening, I was just wondering if we could look at the only reason I picked it was the fire district and the people. I went as far as the Legion, what used to be the old Legion in Argyle, which is now a dance studio. And I was just thinking, if council wanted, and again, it's 100% up to council, I would do that part of it, up to from where my area district stops to the studio, dance studio, and Councillor Madden, I believe, would be willing to do from that on.
So can we appoint two?
Absolutely.
So anybody want to make that motion? I'll make that motion. It is moved by Warden Albright and seconded by Councillor Bork to have Councillor Digdon and Councillor Madden take care of the responsibilities for District 6. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Eh.
So,
If I may, just as a follow-up, because I know somewhere's along the line, and for full transparency, I don't know how it works, but there will be no monetary gain for that for the next 3 months on my part. And and I'd like to make that very clear. I'll talk with the CAO after and see what we can work out, but I just want that to be out there instead of me go somewhere tomorrow and Digdon's double dipping or something. There's none of that, so. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
okay. So now we move on to the actual committees. Must we make motions for that, for each one?
Ideally, yes.
Okay. So we have Councillor LeBlanc was on the audit committee. Is anybody here willing to take?
I'm willing to go for that.
Okay. Councillor Surratt, would you like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, moved by Warden Albright, seconded by Councillor Digdon. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we need a motion to the Mariner Center Management Authority. Is anybody willing to take that position?
If you're ex officio, you can still take a committee position. You just would be acting not as ex officio, you would be acting as a committee member.
And would that be okay, even if I'm on the MC?
Yes, and if there's conflicts between the two, you can declare those at that
Okay.
time.
Okay, I'm willing to take that one on.
Okay, does someone want to make that motion? It is moved by Councillor Bork, seconded by Councillor Surratt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And the next one is Mariner Center Finance Committee. Is anybody? Councillor Bork is willing to take that one? Anybody want to make that motion? Warden Albright was making the motion, seconded by Councillor Madden. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next one is the Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourist Association Board. Councillor Madden, does anybody want to make that a motion? It is moved by Councillor Digdon, seconded by Councillor Surratt. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Now, the last one is the Yarmouth International Airport Corporation. I was the alternate, so there's no motion needed there, or is there?
Not technically, if you want for clarity, you can make the motion that the alternate will become the primary.
Okay.
And you can do that by motion.
Sure, okay. So Councillor Digdon will make that motion, seconded by Warden Albright. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. So I think that is the business for that one. Thank you very much. 9B, Outdoor Illumination and Light Pollution Presentation, Scott Surratt. Take it over.
Good evening. Glad to be back in front of council. It's been a while.
Good to see you.
CAO Muse had asked me to look into the outdoor illumination light policy bylaw. I call it a policy all the time, but it's a bylaw. And I know it passed, first reading passed in June of 2025, and there was a lot of concerns and questions from your residents and yourself. So that's kind of the reason why CAO Muse kind of asked me to look and do a presentation again to council. And my goal here tonight, I guess, is to kind of summarize the bylaw, not go line by line, and but summarize it in a fashion that's understandable. And if there's questions after, we can kind of deal with that. And also, I did a little bit of research, so I'm going to share a little bit of the research that I found in my presentation, and I'll go through it. I tried it today, and it took me 25 minutes, so I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker. I know we don't want to be here for 25 minutes, so I'm going to skim some of the slides, but here we go. The purpose of the agreement, this engagement, is to ensure council is fully informed in the intent of the bylaw and its practical implications. Identify potential areas of concerns and challenges. What are the next steps? And once we gather all that information, then we can kind of refine the bylaw and looking at what would be fair, enforceable, and practical for our residents. So that's kind of the goal here. What is the purpose of the bylaw? The main purpose is to protect the municipality's star-like designation area. Previous council have invested money for the municipality to get this designation, and we did, and we were the first in North America, and this bylaw would help us to maintain that designation. There's no doubt that's the number one priority, but also it would reduce light pollution, sky glow, minimize glare, light trespass onto neighbors' property, promote energy efficiency and responsible outdoor lighting practice. Just how did we get here? Just a little bit of background information. I'm not going to go over all of it, but again, we were the first in the Acadian skies, and Mi'kmaq land was the first destination in North America to receive this certificate in 2014. It was renewed back in 2024, so we do have the designation. What is the area that we're talking about here? I think for me, when I was doing the research, what are we talking about? So the area that we're looking at is the Municipality of Argyle, the Municipality of Yarmouth, the Municipality of Clare, which includes the Tobiac Wilderness area, if you know where that is. But it excludes the town of Yarmouth. And I have a map here that kind of shows a little bit more of what the dark orange is, again, Clare, Municipality of Yarmouth, Clare, and Argyle, and the Tobiac on the top right. You can see the gray circle is where the town would be. So this is the area that we're talking about. So at least we have an idea what we're looking at. With this designation, there is an expectation that the municipality would actively implement action to preserve our night sky, That, when we have that designation, there's an expectation from us, and this bylaw would help us with the expectation. Next, we're gonna skip that one. The intent of this bylaw. So the intent is to make sure that lights directed where we needed. It's not to reduce or eliminate lights, but it's to make sure it's where it's needed. It's to minimize impact on neighbors and the environment. It's to reduce glare and the upward glow, to protect our night skies. Regulate proper lighting for street lights. That's, those are the intent of the bylaw. It's not to reduce or eliminate lighting, to reduce security or safety lighting. It's not to eliminate street lights. So I just kind of want to put that out there so people are kind of clear on what the intent of the bylaw is. So what I've done, I'm not going to go line by line with the bylaw, but I've kind of broke it down into 8 points, key points, I guess, of the bylaw, and I'm just going to kind of go through it because I think it's important that we go through this. Basically, the fully shielded light, the way the bylaw's word is, all outdoor fixtures must be fully shielded to direct light should go downwards. That's how it is, that's how it's written. There are exceptions, so like Christmas lights, transportation towers, construction sites, harbor authority, Coast Guard, waterways, those are exceptions to this, and it's in the bylaw now. But it's, when we're talking about residents and our commercial people, it fully shielded. Color temperature limits. So again, pretty specific in the policy that light must be LED with warm tone and it's under 27 Kelvin. Pretty specific, and it kind of says blue tone LED are prohibited. So it's very specific. Then we talk about light levels at property boundaries. Again, specific, illumination is limited to your property boundary to be 5 lux. I don't really know what 5 lux is, but it's specific, that's how it's worded, and to your boundary. So if you have a light, it can't shine more than 5 lux at the boundary level. Light curfews, so it's again specific, the bylaw, non-security commercial lighting must be turned off or dimmed by 11 p.m. or 1 hour after closing. That would be the expectation of the bylaw. Floodlight design. Most floodlights are pointed up, that's kind of how we use them for Christmas and for signs, but the policy basically states that it should be asymmetric, which means downwards. So it should be facing downwards. Sign illumination controls. So illuminating signs are not permitted in sensitive areas such as provincial game sanctuary, provincial nature reserve, or provincial wilderness areas. And there are more in the policy, but I just wanted to give you an idea what I meant there. Also, outdoor advertising sign along roadways after hours shall be turned off 1 hour after sunset. Again, very specific in the policy, and that would be the expectation that we're asking our commercial businesses to do. Compliance deadline, as it reads right now, it would be January 1st, 2027. So that, even though we're March or almost in March of 2026, that's going to come fairly quick. Enforcement. So basically how it reads is you'd have a warning, and then if that you wouldn't comply, you'd get a compliance order that would ask you to get it done within 40 or 60 days, and if you don't, then you're getting a fine. So it's very punitive in nature. And a bylaw would be punitive in nature. That's just how a bylaw is. So that's the I kind of broken down the bylaw, again, not line by line, but it's more kind of 8 points that I thought was important to share. In my research, I did there's other things we could consider about this bylaw is like protection of wildlife and natural ecosystem. We know that if you have artificial lighting, it can affect migrating and navigational birds. It can impact the feeding and breeding cycles of birds and insects. So having this policy bylaw, it would help with that. Public health and quality of life. If we're lessening the light trespassing in other people's homes, then people may be able to sleep better, or there might be visibility issues, whatever. It's better for the quality of life. Energy efficiency and cost savings, even though we're asking folks to buy energy efficient lighting, there may be an upfront cost, but in the long term, there may be a cost savings, right? Traffic and safety visibility. Proper lighting would reduce glare and improve nighttime visibility. So less glare out there on the roads. When you're driving, it'd be safer on the roads, right? Community character is, we know here in Municipality of Argyle, on a nice night with no clouds, we can see the skies, we can see the stars, we can see the moon. It's a character of the Municipality of Argyle. So with this bylaw, we'd maintain that, right? It's just taking care of our night skies. Tourism and economic development. We know that there could be some other economic development coming out of the ecotourism. We know we have businesses now that promote themselves and market themselves as a tourist, like dark skies, tourism piece. So there could be other opportunities for us there. And long-term planning, if we have a bylaw that would look at that, then we could continue to plan for the future for dark skies kind of thing. Identified concerns and challenges. So again, in my research, I found a few things that are concerning or challenging. So technical measurements and standards, like we talked about, kelvins, lux, lumens, that's very technical, and we need specified tools to measure those, that lighting. We can get it, but we don't have it now. We would need to purchase it, and plus we would need to train staff to use it, so there's a challenge for us. Fully shielded requirements for all lighting, as I talked about, we're asking all our folks to do that. Maybe we should look at some exemption, maybe some safety lights or whatever, we could kind of consider those. Undefined and unclear terms, asymmetric, again, I didn't know what that meant when we talked about the floodlight, but it means downward. So that's just one example in the policy that it's undefined, unclear. We want people to know the bylaw, be able to understand the bylaw, but we're using very technical terms that are difficult to understand. I guess that's what I want to share here tonight. Commercial lighting curfew. So we're talking about businesses that need to shut off their lights by 11 o'clock or shut down their signs. We kind of should get feedback from them to say, is that okay? What would be the concerns? And I don't think we've gone there, so that's what I wanted to share. Exemptions for low voltage decorative lights. So that's Christmas lights. We have an exemption, but right now we know, and in different villages, there's people that have Christmas lights all year long. So should they be exempt? Should we look at that again, kind of thing? So it doesn't really address it, so we need to look at it. Compliance timelines, again, we talked about January 27th. Is there enough time for us to get feedback from you, the residents, the commercial business, draft up another bylaw, educate our residents, educate our staff that's going to be our bylaw officer by January 2027? I don't think so. We need longer time, right? So that's a concern. And then the enforcement approach, I talked to you, it's punitive. And I don't think the goal of this council is to be punitive towards our folks. It's more about education, So I think we need to look at the language that we have there and change it to make it more educational and not so punitive. So those were my challenges that I saw, but I also have your challenges that you heard. I did get a chance to review the 3 meetings that you guys discussed this very topic, and there was 5 things that I took out of there that I thought I could share again tonight so that you guys can kind of think about it all together. One of the comments is we would be the only municipality implementing this type of policy. There is a concern about moving forward without other municipalities doing the same, and that's a valid concern, but we can be the first one out of the gate and help our neighboring municipality to do the same. There's nothing wrong with us being there, number one. Again, I'm not saying we have to do this. This is kind of food for thoughts for all of you to kind of think about. Another comment, there's a general lack of understanding of the proposed bylaw among both councillors and residents that I heard, and kind of the reason why we're doing this presentation again is to kind of go through that. Another comment, do we need a bylaw, or could the same goal be achieved through an educational or awareness campaign instead? Very good point. And I'll touch on this a little bit more on my next slide, but that was a good point. What would be the financial impact on businesses and residents if the bylaw is adopted? If we were to adopt it now and we're asking residents and commercial businesses to change their lighting and their shielding, we know there's a cost to them, but we don't know what that cost is going to be. How are we going to deal with that? We're presently talking to the province to see if we were to adopt this, would there be programs or funds that could help us, help the commercial businesses or the residents. And I see my Kathy's laughing a little bit. The last point, would the municipality realistically be able to enforce the bylaw with the staff and resource we currently have? And that's a valid point. We have one bylaw officer and we have many lights in the municipality of Argyle, so that would be definitely a challenge for us. Again, these are kind of food for thoughts, again, that I just wanted to share quickly and share with you as you think about what the next steps are. Should we decide whether the existing lighting, both residential and commercial, should be grandfathered and the bylaw apply only to new construction or renovation? So what I'm saying there, do we just grandfather what's out there now and the bylaw would only apply to new constructions or renovations? We could also just grandfather the residential and deal with the commercial people a little bit more differently and give them maybe more time to adapt to this bylaw. There are other ways to looking at this bylaw, and that's what I wanted, the message tonight here is just, we can look at this bylaw in other ways to deal with commercial and residential people. Should we consider additional lighting exemption for the bylaw? Something to think about. Should we consider removing highly technical standard words like Kelvin, lumen, and lux, and kind of change it to say like the glare or the light trespasses, where people would understand that a little bit more, where, you know, lux and Kelvin are pretty technical, but if you're saying light trespassing or glare, people would understand that more. So it's something to consider. The next point is, we all know that our wharfs in the municipality are important infrastructure for us. Safety is a big issue, but I want to make sure that people understand that it's actually exempt in this policy already. It's there. So I just wanted to share that with you. Also, that provincial and federal buildings are also exempt, so schools would be exempt from this policy. The next point is revision of Section 9, inspection of premise, and CAO Muse mentioned this a number of times in your previous conversation that the language there is not correct. The bylaw officer does not have the authority to enter a private property under this bylaw, so that language definitely needs to change, and CAO Muse has already alluded to that. Rewrite Section 10, violation of penalties. So again, I've already talked about that. I think we should probably reword it, look at more educational approach and not so punitive. And my last point is considering alternate method to addressing this bylaw, such as amending the land use bylaw and the nuisance policy. So we could look at, what I'm trying to say, we could look at maybe other ways of looking at this bylaw is maybe not use this bylaw, but use the language that's in bylaw and implement it into our land use bylaw now that we currently have. There's already some stuff about lighting in there. So, but by saying that, this would only apply to new builds or renovation, because it would be at the permit process that we would, that we would be able to enforce that. So that would deal with that. Then plus we could add some language around the nuisance policy that would capture like light trespassing. So if people had lights glaring in your window, the nuisance policy could deal with that. So that's options that to be considered as we move forward. So I'm at the next steps, and I'm getting to the end here. I know I've talked a long time, but review the bylaw in a more detail with council to gather feedback and determine whether there's support to move forward. And that's why I'm here tonight to make this presentation, to give you as much detail as I can. You guys can kind of provide the feedback on how we want to move forward. And if we do move forward, here's some other steps that we're considering would be to meet one-on-one with selected commercial businesses to get their input on the bylaw. And we talk about those 5 topics that are up there. Then we develop an educational social media post to explain the bylaw and make residents aware of what is being proposed. So we'd put that out there, educational posts, different ones. We'd probably leave that up for a couple of weeks. And then we'd create a simple survey for residents to be able to give their feedback. And then from there, we gather everything, and then we could share it again with council, and then if we had to redraft the bylaw, or whatever the suggestion would be from council, we could do that for you. And that, I think, brings me to the end. Got any questions? I'll try to answer at my best, but I will probably pass it on to Alain for some final comments.
I just want to add that there's no decision made on this tonight. This is a presentation, and we won't be deciding anything. So, CEO Muse.
Thank you. There's a couple of things. Thank you very much, Scott, and Mr. Sudet. And I just want to say out loud, it's nice to see you in this room. You were in this room a long time, and then, had an injury, and it's really cool to see you here again. So thank you for that. Secondly, I just want to be very clear in a couple things. So what's important is that, like, the first crack at this, I think everybody in this room agrees was not appropriate. It was not where it needed to be. It was too heavy-handed, and I'm repeating a little bit what Scott said. And we want to make it better for the community, both in terms of them understanding what we're trying to achieve here, and actually make the wording consistent with what we're trying to achieve. And so one of the things that, so what Scott is presenting here is like, we want permission, we want your nod to start talking to people about this. So the bylaw that you put first reading on, that will not be the bylaw that you will have second reading on. That, I can almost promise you that. Unless you want it, and of course you'll get that. But I think that we are all aware that it's just not quite hitting the mark. And we want to make sure we get this right with our community. We also want to make sure that we get this right with us, because enforcement is a big issue. If we're talking about lights for 8,000 people, we're just not being realistic about how we're actually going to deal with this. And I coined this, and I thought I was cute, but Scott told me I wasn't. But maybe his eyes told me I wasn't, but anyway, it's really what we're talking about is we don't want light in the sky or light in your eye. That's basically what we're coming down to. So to protect the night sky, people don't put lights on to light the sky. They put lights on to light what's below the light, not above it. So it would be to try to figure out the best way forward in the most economic and sensible way to have particularly commercial businesses take a look at what they're doing. And over the course of time, they would be instructed how best to do this. And whether you want to do that by a bylaw or whether you want to do that another way, that's up to you still. But that's about lighting the sky. We don't want the sky lit. That's useless to everyone. Also, we don't want glare in the eye. So we don't want residents or commercials to be in a position where they have a really bright light shining it on your property. It's almost like a noise bylaw, right? Like, it's fine if there's not noise, but then when the noise starts, well, that's a nuisance, right? So this is no different. So it's just calling, light in your eye a nuisance. And so we want to have those conversations with the community, see what the community says about how best to approach this, and then come back to you with a revised course of action. So the purpose of the presentation and the discussion today is first and it doesn't have to be done by motion, it's to give us permission to, on your behalf, and you can be included in these discussions, If you have commercial organizations that are in your district, you're more than welcome to be a part of this. Is to have our community development person, which is Scott, to go and have these conversations initially, as he outlined in his presentation, to get the ball rolling on something that does provide some level of protection, just not the one that we went out initially. I think that's really to summarize it. If I keep talking, I'll just say it again, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Surratt.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. One, I just sent you an email, actually, and so it comes from a commercial business, and one of the factors that wasn't mentioned here, but I think is a good consideration, is the regulations that they are already under. So this particular commercial business is SQF program as well as CTPAT program. So I sent both of those comments to you because I think it's another piece of they also have other regulations that they have to consider, and we need to know that in our own bylaw.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
Councilor Digdon.
Somebody might as well start it, I guess. Thank you. I've heard a few presentations, I guess. First of all, we heard a presentation from Tim Doucette, Dark Skies. And the big thing is you've got a lot of wharfs, you've got a lot of commercial spaces. I honestly feel as though these commercial spaces, the people know what lights they have and they know what they need for lights. I honestly don't think that we, as a municipality, I honestly think right now we've got bigger fish to fry than a light pollution bylaw. And what kind of struck me here is I was at a meeting and at a presentation, and we had Tim Doucette at the presentation. He showed us something like what you're seeing under that light pollution there with a big glow over it. I said, okay, I said, Mr. Doucette, I said, where exactly is that? And he kind of got quiet. And I said, yeah, where is that? That was over the town of Yarmouth. So these are the same people that I believe what you said are not going to have to be part of this. Is that what you said, or did I understand?
They're not part of the designation, so
Okay.
they could say, yeah, they have the decision to say, no, they don't need to follow.
Yeah.
I mean, so does Clare, so does the municipality of Yarmouth.
Yeah.
All I was saying is that we could be the first out of the gate.
Yeah.
If council wanted to, and we could help the others form their bylaw.
Yeah, and there's that, I appreciate what you're saying there, but what I've said before, why are we gonna be first out of the gate and penalize our residents and that to see if the others are even gonna come on board with us? And I'm sorry, because I've told a couple of businesses down home, they said, make sure, Digdon, if you hear it coming up again, we want to know about it. And in all fairness, we only heard about this when the agenda came out, and that I didn't know there was going to be this presentation here this evening. I've been on council now 9 years, and by what I know, by what I've heard, by what come up at council meetings, we had one light pollution problem in 9 years. And come to find out, there was more to that story than the light pollution problem. And that, I would say right now, I don't know, I'm looking around at my fellow councilors, I don't know if they're getting very many people coming to them and complaining about light pollution. Is there a way to go forward here? Yes, there may be, but I honestly feel as though before we start it and be the people to start it in our municipality, we have meetings with the town of Yarmouth, with the municipality of Yarmouth, I'm sure we could set up meetings with the municipality of Clare and with the municipality of Barrington and see if they would be on board with us as well. Because if they're not on board, if we decide tomorrow that we're gonna do it on our own, it would add up to like a pimple on a horse's neck. And that, as far as what we're actually gonna do, accomplish by light pollution, as far as I'm concerned. And I would like to meet those other councils first and go there. I don't know of a policy, or sorry, if I can make a motion here this evening. It'll only be a motion if I get a seconder. But I do feel as though we do have bigger issues in this municipality to go after and to work on instead of this light pollution right at this present time. And I would make a motion that we put this light pollution policy, and I heard you a couple times, policy and bylaw.
It's bylaw, sorry.
It is, yeah. And a bylaw means that there is, that you can have ways of charging these people or fining them or whatever the case may be. And unless we have a lot of people coming forward or more people people come forward with complaints and all that, and I looked it up here before I got here this evening, indefinitely, which means it can be for any amount of time, so we could open it back up in 6 months' time or in 2 years' time or whatever the case may be. So I'd like to make a motion that we put this light pollution bylaw, policy, bylaw, I guess it would be if it ever got into, and that on the back burner indefinitely.
So by the nature of our, can we make that motion at this meeting? Say
So
Williams.
I'll take I apologize for speaking on this when there's an open motion. Presentations made to council from external parties are typically, there's no decision made during the course of that presentation when it's new information brought to you. This presentation is a staff presentation based on information that you would have received in the past. So I don't think that the intent of the motion, the intent of the rule to not make a motion in this committee, in this council I think you can make a motion, I guess is the long answer. There is a motion on the floor, and I believe it is a legitimate motion on the floor.
Thank you for clarifying. So, got a motion on the floor. Is there a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's motion by Councillor Digdon to table this and seconded by Councillor Foster. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to,
Sorry, point of order.
There was question.
There was no discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So just for the record, the motion is moved and seconded and is now available for discussion.
Okay.
Okay?
Any questions? Councillor Surratt.
Thank you. I think, from what I'm understanding, Scott brought it forward for us to have a discussion. And I think it's a valid discussion. I think it's a valid to ask questions to further commercial businesses. We already have a designation. It's a pretty proud designation within North America. So that means we were able to get designated despite this bylaw. So the question begs, do we need to make a whole lot of changes to continue our designation? Likely not. And so does a bylaw, I like your thoughts around grandfathering, I like your thoughts around kind of what does it look like for commercial businesses? So I just find it really interesting that you use the word, Councillor Digdon, penalized, when I'm not sure it's about penalizing people so much as continuing our designation. And what does that look like? And since we already have it, does that mean there's going to be a great deal of change needed to continue having it? I do also take note that the town of Yarmouth is not in that designation. But again, we've obviously, were able to get the designation in the first place, so how do we keep it? And I think it's a good conversation to have with folks. And what does it mean? We've already said, the first bylaw that was presented, that there was a first reading, everybody, I think, kind of agreed that it needed changes. So I'd be really interested to see what the changes would look like moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Surratt. Councillor Bourque.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. My thoughts are along with Councillor Surratt, and I do agree some points that you had. Also, Councillor Digdon. Me as well, I thought there was an information session, and I just wanted to sort of like take all this information and think about it, and you had suggested maybe that we could put some things in already in bylaws that we have already. So I think that might be a good way to go instead of creating a new bylaw on lighting. Education on lighting for maybe new builds for commercial and residential, I think it would be good to have. I don't think imposing people to change all their lighting at their homes is a good thing either. It's costly. We have a lot of seniors that are staying at home, and that's costing them money right now. If they have to change their lighting, and, you know, they've got other things that they have to pay now. So my suggestion is that we absorb this information that you brought us and come up with maybe another way of not making a bylaw, and just go continue to see what you can come up with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bourque. Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Deputy, and thank you, Scott, for that report. I have a hard time making a decision tonight based on, I really don't know what our problem is, even though you've got a nice report. But I would like, and I don't want to get the staff involved heavy, but I would like the staff to come back and say, okay, this is what has to be done, not might have to be done. How bad is the lighting do we have? Is it Tuscan? Is it Eelbrook? Is it Pumlico? Maybe it's not an issue, and maybe it is, and maybe it's just a small issue. I don't know. You know, your report says what should have or to get the designation. On a second note, we have a business here that needs lighting for protection and theft and vandalism, but he's not to have light. But a provincial school across the road, they can have all the lights they want. That makes no sense to me. So I think we have to do a lot more research. Is it a priority, like Mr. Councillor Digdon said? I'm not sure it is. I think, you know, council has a lot more pressing things to look at. But just my comments. Like I said, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Madden. Councillor Boudreau.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Scott. Great presentation. Councillor Digdon, great points. But what I'd like is more feedback from the commercial businesses. And Scott, you made a really good point. Maybe get the new builds to follow these regulations, right? That what I want is more feedback from the businesses. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Boudreau. Warden Albright.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. For me, it's about saving our designation. That's really what this boils down to for me. And I agree with Councillor Digdon in the sense that we're not ready to move forward with the bylaw that we had.
Exactly.
Not at all.
Exactly.
And I feel like we may have kind of jumped the gun a bit in the beginning. And there is a lot of technical information in that bylaw that, although personally I try to understand it, it's not my area of expertise. So personally, I feel like I need more education on it. And I feel like our next steps would be not necessarily to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but to get more education for us with feedback from people in our communities. I know I've received some feedback through email from especially commercial businesses, but dispelling the myths is important. But, you know, because when it came out, there was a lot of fear. in our residence, right? And that they wouldn't be able to have Christmas lights up, that they wouldn't be able to put their car lights on, things like that. And I think that we have to be really ready when we go to the public with this to ensure that they understand. It's not about eliminating light, it's about changing the way that it shines and the reasons why we want to do that. I've even had residents say, well, so what if I go outside, I can see the stars? Well, we don't realize how lucky we are that we can see the stars. And those who, who enjoy that, who understand the designation, it's equally important to them as it is to the businesses who need the lighting. So we have to balance both parts to this. So, but I don't feel like with the bylaw that we had, that we were ready for that. That one was not the one we needed. I think we can find a way to move forward, but we definitely need more input and more education. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Warden. CAO Muse.
Just a couple of things. So permit me to be a bit frank and blunt around the bylaw. The bylaw around enforcement is really missing the mark. And I'm saying that as someone who co-authored it, so it's a bit of a self kind of criticism. It's really like there's no possible way, practical way that we would be knocking on people's doors and saying you should put a shield on top of your light. I mean, that's just not happening. So, the nature of this, but one of the things, and I recognize the fact that there's been a motion here to table this, and that's certainly one of the many things that you can do here tonight. The other option you might consider here, and it was mentioned by current chair, Monsieur Saunier, is that, one of the options is to rescind or to cancel the bylaw. And that way, I think, by doing that, I think what you're doing is potentially addressing some of the concerns that Councillor Digdon is raising, and some other concerns that people have that we're not quite ready. So why are we amending something when we should be? And I'm stealing the take the baby out with the bathwater. I'm saying we take the water out, maybe baby stays, but the water comes out, and we can maybe reset that discussion. Maybe that takes a little bit of fear and concern away from residents on this. That's a possibility. Unfortunately, Councillor Madden has made a very good point around the provincial lighting. Unfortunately, as it stands, municipalities, they can put bylaws in, but the province and federal government, we can never regulate them. So as we can encourage them to do this, but we can't actually force them to do this. And lastly, I would say that, we do have concerns, like legitimate concerns about the cost. Maybe not so much yes, there would be a cost on the residential side, but what I'm talking about particularly is some of those larger commercial businesses with multiple lights required for safety. We see them. We see them in Tuscany. We see them everywhere. And so, like, how is it that they, and in the feedback that we received as staff, what we heard from them is that they are wanting to preserve the night sky. They are wanting to do the right thing, but they don't understand, they're not fully clear on what exactly they have to do. So do they have to change their lights, shield their lights, turn off their lights? Like, which is it? Like, is it everything? Is it one thing? So we've managed to put probably a little bit too much on the table there, a little bit too much to digest. So I think we're all saying we need more information. I think we're all saying that we don't need it at this level of enforcement. We don't want that. And I do want to commend a point by Councillor Surette, who said that we got this designation before this bylaw. And so many of the complaints that we receive on the pro-designating or pro-protection of night sky, the arguments there are it's getting lighter and lighter. So that's about new lighting, right? It's about new lighting. So I think that when it comes to new, the bylaw already addresses that right now. Maybe not in its completion, but it does. It says if you're putting in a new house, you got to put this kind of light. So it's part of it now, but it doesn't address the existing, nor does it address the trespass of light. So one day I could be completely fine. The next day I could put a halogen light aiming it to your front lawn, and there's nothing that prevents that from happening today. So that, I think, there are elements of this that can be addressed in other ways. So if you wish to take more time and think about it, I think that's commendable. But also consider the possibility of rescinding the bylaw in favor of something else. And then what you're doing is, at the time that's convenient for you, we would then recreate something entirely new, instead of trying to amend something that you probably don't like. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you, CEO Muse. Councillor Digdon.
Thank you, and thank you for all the great discussion. So you say rescind the bylaw, but do we have a bylaw now, like pollution bylaw?
No, it's in first reading.
Yes.
It's a challenging situation. I believe that it's hard to rescind a bylaw that isn't in place, but I believe that you can rescind the first reading. So I misspoke when I said that you rescind the bylaw. The bylaw doesn't exist. It's in first reading, but you can reverse or rescind the first reading.
Okay.
And so that would have the same intent.
Okay, so with the seconder's approval, if you would, and that, because, we're saying this is going to take time, it's going to take people, it's going to take money. We don't even know how much any of this is going to cost. We say, maybe we can drop lumens and all this, but at the same time, if it ever gets to court or whatever, they're going to come up with, what's a lumen, sir? Well, I'm not sure, we don't use that in Argyle, where we have to use it. And so I would drop the motion I made, and I would say that we rescind the first reading of this bylaw till we have a lot more information, a lot more input from our residents, and a lot more input from the municipalities and town around us. Because like I say, if we're gonna try and do this ourselves, and I said earlier that it would amount to pretty well like a pimple on a horse's neck. That's not what I'd normally say, but being as though the camera's on, I will stick with that. So I will make that motion that we rescind the first reading, the first reading that we had of this proposed bylaw.
So just for the record, in order to do this, both the mover and the seconder have to agree to the amendment. So the first motion in place here is to consider the amendment, which is to say that it used to say what it said, and now it's saying that we would rescind the first reading. So for Robert's Rules of Order, you would then vote on the amendment. So the first vote is not whether or not you want to rescind it, it's whether or not you would consider the amendment to consider that. Does that make sense? No, not at all. Oh, that's wonderful.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah,
You're doing
so
So there was a motion on the floor just now.
yes. So he is proposing an amendment, and the seconder has agreed to the amendment.
Okay.
So essentially, the first thing we have to do is approve which motion we're discussing. Okay, so what they're proposing is that they're amending it to, instead of saying that we table, is that we rescind the first reading of the bylaw. If council's in favor of that amendment, it votes aye, and then if that goes through, then you have a second, you now have your amended motion to which you can discuss. Does that make better sense?
It does. So we have a motion and a seconder. Does everybody understand the motion? To amend? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. So we can
Lovely.
discuss now?
So now you can discuss the amended motion.
Okay.
And the amended motion, as you know, is to rescind the first reading of the bylaw. This is not to eliminate light pollution, it's to eliminate the bylaw in place currently in first reading in limbo. It's to eliminate that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Foster?
Oh, sorry. I just had my light on to second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any questions? I'd like to add just a couple comments. There's a very strong consensus here that we need more information. And so I want to make it clear to the presenter that when you mention the Harbor Authority, how broad is that, and what I mean by that, does it involve the entire fish plant, the parking lots, the whole fish plant estate? What's, because that's where I had pushback.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't know, I know the answer here tonight. I'd have to dig into it a little further. But, you know, I mean, if you're looking at fish plants, they're their own identity. It would be different than the Harbor Authority for sure there. The Harbor Authority, I'd have to look into it further, but they oversee the wharfs. So I would say that it's kind of what I was referring to. The wharf itself, so the lighting on the wharfs, we would not have any jurisdiction on that, so they wouldn't have to follow our bylaw.
I think there's something
But
we
there's
need
more
to keep in
to-
mind as to how, you know, fish plants operate. They'll load a truck and they move away and then get out and strap all their boxes. They need lighting. And I'm wondering how broad this lighting will encompass. And they will argue that point for sure. Something for you to think about. And secondly, I'm asking, what, do you look into the future? If baseball becomes popular, and this is just a very, very,
It's popular.
yeah, hypothetical. Lights at the ball field in Tuscan, all right? What do? And the track and field. I know you can't answer that, but it's something I think we're talking the now. I want to know what happens in the future.
Yeah, no,
And I think you got to be broad with your answers here. People are going to want to know.
for sure.
Is it going to constrict any future business or any future sports or anything like that?
It could. That's a very good question and something we need to consider when we bring forward this bylaw. Because if there would be lights at the Tuscan ball field, they would have to follow these particular criteria that we set out and is it good enough for a ball field? I'm not sure if 2700 Kevlin is good enough for the ball field. It probably isn't, to be honest with you. So that's a very good point. The other piece is we're saying at 11 o'clock, it probably has to shut down. So we'd have to make some amendments on the bylaw too, that maybe a tournament would go longer than 11
Yeah.
o'clock, so.
I'm more concerned with stuff like that than I am private homes.
Yeah.
My house has very bright lights. No one ever complains. I say it has. I can snap them on, snap them off. They're not on very often, but when they are, they're bright, and yet no one complains. So I don't think the complaint is there, but in businesses, I think we need to be careful. That's all. Thank you. CEO, what?
So just on that topic of like lighting for events, like it really, the bylaw, yes, the bylaw talks about the Kelvin and all that, but what it also talks about is when lights go on and they go off. Like, so this is more of an issue. This is light pollution, constant light pollution. This is not temporary light pollution. So things like that, events like that, that would never be an issue in this bylaw. Yes, people may have a problem with the brightness of that particular light, but it's on for 4 hours. It's not on for 13 hours a day, every day. And so I think that the intent of the bylaw as written, it would not really impede that kind of stuff. But with any bylaw, if there's any enforceability whatsoever, there's going to be questions. And there's going to be circumstances where you're like, oh, we didn't think of that, right? That didn't quite go the way we thought. So yeah, I mean, those things would be okay. I think a lot of things would be okay. I think a lot of things at the end of the day is that if you have security lighting at your home, it can be bright. But if it's off at 11 or it only goes on when when somebody passes and the motion sensor picks it up, that's an improvement in terms of light pollution. Because one particular light isn't the issue, it's 10,000 lights, right? And so there are ways that we can make this better. And so this bylaw is just too hard-handed, right? So there's things that we can do that aren't as heavy-handed that can help people move on. And I feel like we really should be focusing on not forcing people to do things, rather tell them how to do things when they're changing it, if that makes sense. So if you've got a street light in Tuscan Ford and the light goes out, you got to replace the light. Well, you should think about maybe that should be shielded. But you're not gonna go and force a company to put 25 shields on their, because, what kind of boom truck is that? I mean, how expensive are you asking? You're asking businesses to spend more money, and that's all we're asking these days. So those are the kinds of things, like, that's why I think this motion, the way that I interpret this motion is, okay, restart, don't stop, but try again. That's how I'm interpreting it as a staffer.
Thank you. Councillor Digdon.
Thank you, and the last time, I promise. Again, great discussion. That's why I want to bring something up here tonight for discussion, because I find some things come before us and motion on that passed and that. Read also some stuff, some material there where we didn't know, I guess, if we were gonna actually grandfather some of the lights in or not. Stuff like that made me nervous. Then I hear like, we may tell somebody, okay, you can't have that light, but then we're gonna let a business go with 25 lights that may be putting light pollution up in the air. So we have to make sure we do it when we do it, if we do it, that we do it and we do it right. And again, I honestly don't believe that we can do it alone and say that we're gonna maintain the dark skies down here. And I'm all for it, it's beautiful. I hunt out in Quinnan. When I get out there, out the road, I get out of my truck and I'll stay there for about 5 minutes before I even move, just to let my eyes adjust. And to look up there, it's beautiful. I've been out to Tim Doucette's operation. It's beautiful, hope to get back. But I just feel as though, with the way things are going there now, a lot of people are having trouble with governments right now and being bylawed and everything. They feel as though heavy-handed, using what the CAU moves. So yeah, we can still work on it, but big thing, we may never even need this if we start a good education component, and if you're gonna come in for a building permit, okay, here's something we're looking at. Did you know that we have dark skies, and work like that, but anyway, thank you for the discussion. It was good, great.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't see any more questions. Do we have any more? Okay, I guess we will move on. Was the motion was made, right?
To rescind, yeah.
To rescind, yeah.
We need to vote on.
I thought we had.
No,
Okay.
that was the amendment.
Sorry. All in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, we will move to 9C, amendment to Article P7, overtime. There's a suggested motion to approve. Chantal, you can brush on that just a bit, if you don't mind, please.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendments being made to this policy are just to clarify some things, like some staff, for minute purposes or IT purposes, we have different payout options for council meetings and stuff. So there was just not really clarification on what happens when you guys start a meeting at 4 o'clock and it goes till 6 o'clock. So we added some clarifying language in there to clarify which way we get paid out for that. And the other thing is we just increased the rate of pay for the on-call staff by a little bit. So those are only amendments for that policy. And this is to pass it, you've had your 7-day notice.
Thank you, Chantal. So do we have a mover? Moved by Councillor Burke, seconded by Councillor Digdon. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we'll go to 9D, second reading, Bylaw K19, penalties repealed. This is a suggestive motion to approve. It has been replaced by policy C22. There's no need for this one again. It's pretty simple. It's housekeeping. Do we have a mover?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Warden Albright. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Madden. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 9E, regular meeting date change. This is a suggested motion to change the meeting from March 12th to March 11th because of the March break. It's pretty simple. Do we have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Boudreau, seconded by Warden Albright. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 9G, 9F, sorry. Morris Island Safety Concern. Councillor Foster.
Yes. I've been approached by a few people from the Morris Island area about a safety problem at the end of the road. And you've probably had the chance to read the letter that I've written and sent out. There was a recent accident at this site. I should say fortunately, the injuries were of a minor nature. I myself am not familiar with the nature of the injuries that occurred, but I know it was nothing too serious, but it could have been a very serious situation. And apparently there have been 3 or 4 accidents at this very site in the past due to the same reasons. Lack of visibility, people not familiar that the road comes to an abrupt end. Apart from a safety concern, years ago when I worked for Acadian Sea Plants, I would spend a lot more time down at the wharf, and there were vehicles showing up on the wharf thinking that they were following the lighthouse route, and they were on their way to Halifax, and instead of turning at the big curve at the Hanging Oak Antique Shop, they would go straight down and end up at the end of the road in Morris Island. So if you're not familiar with the area, yeah, it is a very dangerous situation. So to make a long story short, if you may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read the letter that I wrote to you folks for the benefit of the viewing audience, because I think it's a good summary of the situation. The letter is addressed, Dear Warden and fellow councillors. This letter serves as a formal warning regarding a serious safety issue on Morris Island. The roadway leading toward the wharf area comes to an abrupt end directly at the waterfront, creating a significant hazard for motorists and cyclists. And when I say cyclists, I guess you could include motorcyclists in that. Due to limited visibility, especially at night, and that's when this accident occurred, it was late at night, and during adverse weather conditions, there's a lot of fog there in the summertime, there is a substantial risk that individuals unfamiliar with the area may fail to recognize that the road terminates at the wharf. Without adequate warning signage, lighting, or physical barriers in place, this situation presents a danger of vehicles entering the water or causing severe accidents. We strongly urge immediate action to install highly visible warning signs, reflective markers, protective barriers, and appropriate lighting to clearly indicate that the road ends at the wharf. Taking proactive measures will greatly reduce the risk of injury, property damage, or loss of life. Public safety must remain a top priority, and prompt attention to this matter is both necessary and appreciated. Signed by myself, Greg Foster, Councillor, District 4, with copies to Colton LeBlanc, our MLA, and Don Houston with the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works. Now, I've put some suggestions in the letter. I'm not a road engineer, so I don't know what the exact measures ought to be. These are suggestions, but I'm thinking of a similar situation to what we have at the end of the 103 highway, warning the public that the road ends. I'm not saying they ought to be put in place in Morris Island. Perhaps there's a better solution, but there's a series of speed bumps there to warn you that you're getting at the end of the road. There's flashing red lights and proper signage letting you know that this is the end of the line. So I would like to make a motion that we write a letter to whomever, the powers that be, and make them aware of this situation, not just a copy of this letter, and to urge action on this situation. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor, it was moved by Councillor Foster and seconded by Councillor Boudreau. This would be a letter to Department of Highways. Likely, okay. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Digdon? Sorry.
No, I'm definitely in favor. I was just wondering if it would have been worthwhile to ask for a follow-up of them receiving that letter as to what they're gonna do or their plans are.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, it's your motion, sir, because, but, yeah, it's definitely, I agree 100%, so.
Anything, just waiting for. Anything that would help to improve the safety of the situation, I'm all for it, so.
Okay, so your motion reads exactly what?
I've got it on the summary sheet here, which I will turn to. Motion to be considered, write a letter to Nova Scotia Department of Public Works urging immediate action to install highly visible warning signs, reflective markers, and lighting to clearly indicate that the road ends at the wharf. And that could also include physical barriers, if that would be the required course of action, because like I say, I'm not a road engineer. These are just suggestions that have come to my mind.
Okay,
At least they could recommend to us what needs to be done and what would be feasible for the situation.
okay, so we have a seconder, Councilor Boudreau? Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 9G for correspondence, no, sorry, yeah, 9G is leadership course, Warden Albright.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. We received, I believe it was the NSFM Monday memo. In that, sometimes there are workshops that come out or conferences that come out, and there was an in-person workshop that I felt was interesting, and it was around meetings and the flow of meetings and making sure that, it talks about strengthening the meeting structure, clarifying roles, reducing friction points, managing tone of meetings, and using council meetings as visible demonstrations of professionalism and preparedness. I think, as I read this, I thought, our meetings have become a little bit more complex, and we have a code of conduct that, we all have had training on, and I just felt like this would be something that, having chaired several meetings, and I don't just chair these meetings, I chair other meetings on different committees for council, I felt like it would be something that I would really like to attend. So I spoke with CAO Muse and asked his perspective, and he felt like it would be a valuable workshop for me to attend. The cost of the workshop is $275 plus HST, so I asked about the cost, and he said, we do have the budget for it. So I just wanted to, before registering, I wanted to get approval from council, make sure that it was okay with everybody, and so that's why I brought this forward.
Do we need a motion?
I would probably prefer.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, this is moved by Councilor Bork, seconded by Councilor Surratt. Any questions?
Yeah,
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
thank you.
Okay, we go to financial request 11A and 11B are both from Councilor Bork. One is for Council Community Grant Request for the Pamlico Light Monument Society for $700, and the other one's for the Immaculate Conception Cemetery Committee for $700. Do we have a mover for that? Moved by Councilor,
I think we do one at a time, right?
So I'm gonna move for council community grant for Plumbable Lake Monument Society of $700.
moved by Councilor Digdon, seconded by Councilor Surratt. Any questions?
Just a point, normally, don't we have a form that's filled in for the application?
There is one. I have it if you'd like to see a copy of it. I don't always attach them, but I don't mind. I can definitely send that
No,
out for you
just-
guys to see.
Just for clarification, why there's not one this time and
Absolutely.
other time there is, so.
Yep, I'll
Good
make sure
question.
that they're on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so the second one is the Immaculate Conception Cemetery Committee for $700 from Councilor Bork.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Warden Albright, seconded by Councilor Boudreau. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we are down to 12, agenda topics for next meeting. Notice of motion by councilors. Do we have any? Seeing none, we'll go to 13, question period. Any questions?
There was just the one, first I'll say that there were a lot of interesting comments in response to the night sky conversation. I mean, hard to know what all people are thinking, but there's a lot of thoughtful dialogue and appreciation for the fact that we're having this conversation. Some people are very, very much in that genre. One question had actually related to the lighting of the baseball field that was actually also written in the comments. I believe we answered that by saying that, well, we rescinded the bylaw, so the bylaw will have no impact, but I think there was a concern that they wouldn't be able to do that. That wouldn't be a project that would move forward, and that's not the case. That's still a project that could move forward if somebody wanted to do that kind of a lighting initiative or ask the municipality to do that on behalf of baseball or other sports. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Digdon.
Good, thank you. The only thing I was gonna ask, and again, it's for transparency, because I've seen some stuff after our meetings on Facebook. All of these, what people put on Facebook or whatever, the comments and the questions, unless they're of a derogatory nature, they stay up on our site, do they?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the current policy states that we leave all comments on our site, provided that they are not derogatory, racist, untrue, misleading. There's a lot of provisions there. You're welcome to, and we can occasionally post that. We've not really had many occasions where we've deleted posts. There have been a couple of occasions where there were misstatements that people are more than welcome to make on their own on their own social media sites, on their own sites. They're more than welcome to say whichever and whatever they wish. We're not discouraging that, but on our site, we have rules, and we are trying to be respectful of all. But it is absolutely, if people disagree with council, they are more than welcome to do that in any form. That is not, we are not in the position to make comment on that, nor will we delete their comments.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? So I guess this ends this part of the meeting. We need a motion to go in camera. Motion to go in camera. Thank you.